let's jump into our session today. Let me share my screen. One moment. All right. So I'm going to come into our dashboard. And for those of you that are new to Annuities Genius, um, basically what our tool does is sales enablement when it comes to annuities specifically. What is sales enablement, you ask? It is how can we help you sell annuities more efficiently? How can we simplify the sales process for you? And how can we give you confidence that you can not only sell, but close more deals? And that's what all of our tools try to do in one way or another. And so, one thing that I want to go through today, or kind of the main piece or feature that I want to cover today, is going to be our income calculator and how you can utilize that in your practice. After we go through that, what I typically will do is I'll grab some case details from one of our attendees via the chat, and we'll go through and actually solve or create a case, I should say, with our AI tool. But let's start with our calculator. So as you can see, I'm in our dashboard. Up at the top, I'll click on calculators, and I'm going to go to income rider calculator. That's by far our most popular calculator. Pretty straightforward. So I am going to, you can see that the client that I currently have in this case is Susan Turner. So it pulls her scenario just automatically. So when I'm on calculator, let's say Susan, she's 66, Arizona has 600,000, and we're looking for income options. Susan has a spouse that's 67, and so they're looking for a joint income in this scenario. Now, pretty straightforward when I'm looking at the calculator in general. All I'm doing is looking for, in this case, a monthly. I've selected monthly income, joint at 67, and it's set for immediate. So if I slide the time, this will basically set my deferral time. So let's say that we want to set a defer for 5 years on starting the income. And you can see, obviously, that gives them more time to accumulate, and the guaranteed income is going to be more. And so that's pretty easy to use. Up at the top, I can see all my different rider features. And so in this case, I have it pretty straightforward where there's no income reduction. I don't have any of the other riders clicked, and I'm solving for joint. So again, if I wanted to go like, let's say no rider fee, for example, I'll click on that. That'll reconfigure it, and it will go through and see which products would then give me the most monthly income. I'll turn that off, and we'll go back, and you can see with that I'm paying that fee, but I'm getting a lot more guaranteed income. If I needed to, like, let's say change a customer, I could go to switch case, and I could just select any of my past clients that I already have in the system. If I needed to add a new one, I'm going to go new case. And let's say that I have, Tom, for example, and Tom is in Arizona, and Tom is 60 years old. He has $100,000 in an IRA. He's looking for just single income. Let's say he's not married, and that's going to take me to here. It's going to basically create it back. But if I go back to my income rider, it'll have Tom there ready to go. And let's say Tom needs income at 67. I'll set a 7-year deferral time. And now here's my monthly guaranteed monthly income I have on Tom with that 100,000. Let's say that, it ends up being 1 million. I'll update that, and it'll adjust accordingly for my guaranteed rates on that. So solving for the monthly income is pretty straightforward as far as once you have kind of the investment amount. Nothing crazy or special about that. What I really like to do, and when it comes into kind of client-facing tools, I like to solve for premium. And what I mean by that is, and where the value is in that is, let's say based off of my conversation with my client, I know that Tom, and let's say going back to that scenario, I know that Tom needs, let's say, $6,000 a month in actually, let's say more. Let's say that Tom needs $10,000 a month in income based off of his expenses. And he has other investments and Social Security that get him, let's say, 7. So there's an income gap that we need to address of $3,000 a month. That's what we're going to solve for. And so based off of my conversations and kind of our fact finding, everything we've gone through, we need to find a product that can get him $3,000 a month in income. And that's kind of what he's come to me for. Now, me being the annuity guy, I know that we can solve that. And not only can we solve that, but we can find a guaranteed source. So he doesn't have to worry about doing a dividend or taking, putting it into a mutual fund or some type of other managed account where, yeah, he could probably get that, but it's not going to be guaranteed and his principal could fluctuate. And so I'm here to solve Tom's $3,000 a month gap problem. So how do I do that? I'm going to select, in this case, we're going to solve for premium. So I'm going to click on premium. And then I have my withdrawal amount monthly. So I'm going to put in that $3,000 that we're looking for. And I don't need to change anything else on here. Obviously, with the deferral time, let's say that his deferral time is still the same. He's 60, he needs that $3,000 at 67, or we can even say he needs it at 65. And what's cool about this is we could potentially talk about, hey, maybe you can retire a little bit earlier if we can find the right product. So let's go back to that 67 where we started and say, okay, Tom, based off of that $3,000 amount that you need to get, here are the products that we can do. So let's say he wants A minus and above. Instead of, I could set the filters over here, but I'll just kind of scoot through and go, all right, looks like we have this VSAR product and we have this Jackson product. Let's say we'd like the Jackson product for one reason or another. It gets us $3,000 a month, and you can see the dollar amount that I highlighted. If he puts $283,000 in change into that product, that'll get him his $3,000 a month. And so what's neat about this is obviously I'm finding a product recommendation, but what I'm really doing is I'm problem solving. So now I'm not basically giving him a sales pitch. I'm solving his problem. So it's like, all right, this makes sense. Let's reallocate some of your funds into this product, and that'll basically check that box and fill that income gap that you need. And not only is it going to fill that income gap, but it's guaranteed. You have principal production, everything else beyond that you want to go into, from the case of the pros of having an annuity. And to answer your question, Claudia, yes, this scenario, how we have it set up is that's guaranteed with this product. Now, what else I can do is if I click on this action menu, I can go into, illustrate, I can get a more annuity information brochure, kind of do all that as I need to, or as needed, and kind of move on with that. If you have, in a lot of scenarios, let's say they wanted to do that, depending on the product and your IMO, I can even jump into the e-app as well. And so let's go and say, hey, you know what, Tom? It looks like we can definitely get there. That's only going to take up, 27% of your, your money, the money that you're looking at. If you have, $1 million in a scenario, let's say, Tom, can you retire 2 years earlier? What would that look like? So now I can basically say, okay, based off of that 65 now, let's say that we have you retire 2 years earlier, still get you that $3,000 a month. And in this case, based off of that, here's the products that pop up. Instead of the 270-ish and change, put in maybe another 50, and we can get you there with this product right here from that's from Corbridge, or we could still stick with that same annuity or Jackson or VSAR or whatever. And so now I can still get him there in 2 years earlier. He's going to put a little more money in that product, and now we basically again helping himself and go through different scenarios. And so when I say back to where I started, how our tool is set up from a sales enablement side is it allows you to not just be, a product pusher or someone who's just trying to sell the next annuity or whatever, but when you can have these type of conversations in more detail, one is you're solving specifically for their scenario, so they feel like they're getting a tailored recommendation for them. Also, you're going to set yourself apart from the competition because a lot of other agents or advisors, they're probably just, pitching the product and they're saying, hey, yeah, we can get you a, income product. Here you go. Put in, $300,000 or $250,000 or whatever. Now we're having a more nuanced conversation on, is it 67 that we retire? Is it 65? you're basically kind of allowing them to see how we're getting to this recommendation and making it super easy for them. So let's say Tom's like, you know what? 2 years more of retirement sounds great. I can, do X, Y, Z. Let's move forward with that, or we can compare products. But let's say that we want to, look at what we're doing. I know that in this case, this VSAR product, I can e-sign it right here. So I could go into like Illustrate if I want to, and basically you can see in this other tab, it's going to pull up the illustrations, and I can kind of, dive into that more detail if I want to get into more. Um, Go through everything and basically download the report, show illustration notes. But what's really cool is if I have Firelight is the e-app source that's utilized. Again, that's going to be limited if we can get that synced up from your IMO. But I could basically go back from here. I could say, okay, great. Yeah, let's do this. I'll start the e-app. If I click on that, it's going to take Tom, create application, and then that'll basically pre-fill out the application. Since it's basically set up on here, it's for demo purposes, it's not going to pull an actual application. But when we have e-app set up, it'll allow me to move forward and basically start filling up the e-app so I can close this and kind of lock this deal down right there on the spot. Super easy. Don't have to double enter information. It'll basically pull everything that we already have and we can move forward. So, kind of a quick, I guess, any questions as I go through as we kind of wrap this portion of the income calculator up. I really like solving for premium because again, you're basically taking a specific need that your client has and kind of checking that box. Plus two, from a production standpoint, if you're solving for premium, you're probably going to be closing bigger deals because once you get into those few $1,000 a month guaranteed rates, you can see the premium goes up quite a bit. So let's say we needed, he's like, hey, I don't want to worry about the market. We've had a good run. I want to be able to, rest easy and have guaranteed income and not worry about my money going up and down based off the stock market. So let's get half of my money. So let's get, $5,000 a month so I can basically, rest easy, sleep, without having to worry about that. And now 3,000 premium deal went up to 500,000 and change. And, obviously that's going to, you as the advisor, benefit off that as well. And so being able to use this and have conversations on solving for specific income needs helps you get those bigger deals done. And you're not just, trying to push another big deal for, commission's sake. You're trying to help your clients, and it's basically a win-win scenario where you can get them guaranteed income, principal protection, and obviously you as the advisor are taken care of from, what you're earning with that. Let's see if any questions. So he's putting this amount monthly. No, so in this case, we would be saying he's taking, let's say that he wants $5,000 of guaranteed income in 5 years. He would take, and let's say we want this Corebridge product, he would take $536,000, purchase that annuity, and then he would then at age 65 turn on that income stream, and he would now get a guaranteed $5,000 a month. Is that what that means in that scenario? Is this effective with a SPIA also? Yeah, so I could come in and say, let's say that he has, uh, let's say that going back to SPIAs, typically, like let's say that he has $100,000 and he needs income now. I would basically just go start income. There's no deferral time. He has $100,000, and here's kind of your different options that you have with immediate income on a monthly basis. I could obviously show that annually too if I want to make the numbers look a little bit bigger. And so it's like, okay, yeah, it looks like we can get you the SurePath product, $7,000 a month. Excuse me, $7,000 annually off of that 100,000. So that's how that would work with the with immediate. So that's the income calculator. Again, that's just one small piece of our tool. Let's actually go to an actual case, and we'll use our AI tool. So the AI feature is our newest feature that we've added approximately 3 months or so. Super easy. What I like about it is we get a lot of agents that come from selling other lines of insurance. So a lot of, Medicare or life insurance. And you want to be able to cross sell to your client base, but you may or may not feel super confident in knowing, what's the best annuity product, how does it work? And so that's where AI kind of helps you in this case. And so I'll show you kind of how that works, and we'll actually solve a case right now. So if anybody wants to throw in a case scenario in the chat, um, we'll actually go through an actual case in it together as a group and see what we can solve for. So as I wait for someone to throw in some details that we can do. It works in Spanish and gives me a report in Spanish. Oh, cool. I actually did not know that. That's pretty neat. Um, that's something I learned today. Can we use the AI instead of the basic version versus income calculator, or does using income calculator advanced version? What's the difference between Navigator and AI? So, basic version, I'm not sure if you're talking about like the different plans. So, with the different plans that we have our starter, prime, and genius. The AI calculator does not come in the starter plan, so you would need a prime or the genius plan for the AI calculator. For the starter plan, you get the AI, Grand AI, which we're going to go through, and you get the Navigator tool as well, which we won't have a chance to cover today. But does anyone have a test case? So when I say test case, like I just need a client, male, female. If you want to throw in a fake name, you can do that. Age, state, looking for income, looking for growth, looking to, joint income, looking for whatever. And we can throw it into the AI and actually solve a case. If not, I can just use one of our, I can throw one in as well. So we can actually go through it. But I'll give you anybody who wants to throw in a sample case. I'll give you a moment to do that, and then we'll jump into it. All right, so I'm just I haven't seen any come in yet via the chat. So what I'll do is I'll use this one right here, the sample case. Oh, looks like Lynette came down to the wire. Um, and so let me copy and paste this one. One moment. All right, so we have a female. So I'm going to say Lisa, just make up a name. 62. I'm just going to say in California, has 350K, looking for income in 10 years. So unfortunately, it doesn't let me copy and paste that. Oh, Maryland. All right, I'll say Maryland. All right, so I'll go create case. So this was pretty straightforward. So again, imagine. So let me actually explain this first. So when I enter that case, it's going to enter that client into the CRM so I can keep track of it. So we have Lisa, Maryland, 62, female. I can select the account type since I didn't put in it. We'll just say it's in a 401k, 350,000, single, looking for income to start in 10 years. Pretty straightforward. I'll click create client. And then with AI, if you used it before, it can do a lot, but it's limited on what it can do based off of what you tell it to do. And what you tell it to do is called a prompt. And so we've tried to make it really easy where you can basically have pre-built prompts that I can click on and it will enter it in. So I don't have to like manually do it. So in this scenario, like what it will do is whenever you create a new case, it'll automatically give you kind of three kind of pre-built prompts that you can start with, and you can see them right here. So I have fact finding. That's basically just creating like a questionnaires that I can basically, have prepped or potentially send to the client beforehand if I want to. Annuity strategy, just talking more strategies in general on what we can do, and then product selection. Since we know that they need income for 10 years, we can probably just jump right into product selection. So I'm going to tap that. And then what that will do is that'll start sorting through and looking for income options with a 10-year deferral time. Now, again, that's still fairly vague, but we'll be able to start getting some pretty good options, and then we can kind of, filter through them as needed. And what I like to point out on this is, again, you don't have to be an annuity expert to be able to do this. This basically puts the kind of what I'd like to say a marketer in your pocket is historically when you had an annuity, if you weren't doing annuities a lot of the time, you would just call like the marketer in your IMO or your office or your agency or someone, you might have an agent that's kind of the annuity specialist, call them up, give them a scenario, they'd help you out and run through it with them. Obviously, you can still do that, but this does it for you and it's a lot quicker. Completely non-biased. They're gonna be like, hey, I really like this carrier for XYZ. Obviously, that's good for some reasons, but this is gonna take all the different carriers that you have access to and sort through them to see who's gonna give me the best option for my client in this scenario. Not only is it just gonna give you an actual product recommendation, but it will show you why and how it got there, which is really nice. Especially, again, if you're not selling annuities all the time, it gives you a detailed background of why it's a good fit so that you can answer or be confident in how you're talking to your client with this. So it's going to go through the analysis. It's basically just reviewing what it's getting, how it's getting there, key findings, the strategy, the differentiators between the three products that it did. It'll give a initial recommendation, but it'll also give two alternative recommendations as well. But it's just going to review everything. So here's a breakdown. Here's kind of key points. Here's the top three recommendations, why it made this product recommendation, as you can see, and then how it works, key features, and then some of the alternatives. Again, what I like about this is historically, you would have to go to the carrier site or you would go to the annuity brochure to be able to find all these details, where now it just basically gives me an outline and summary right there, ready to go. So again, if I'm, prepping for my case, I'll pull this up. Here's a breakdown of everything, side-by-side comparison as needed. This again is great for suitability. So I'm not just picking, ClearSpring because I get a I don't know, carrier bonus or something like that. I can show I'm doing kind of a non-bias recommendation based off of, XYZ. Here's everything detailed, so I have track of all of it. And if I scroll down, here's kind of the next steps and kind of basically the breakdown of each one that I can jump into and show, illustrations, brochures, all of that. So pretty straightforward as far as just getting a recommendation, but now I can take it even farther with the AI. So let's say, I like this, but I know that they're going to have questions about fees. And I'm not like super, I don't really understand how the fees work with these products. Let's just, say that. So what I can do is I can type in, what are the fees? Or what's really cool is if I click on more, we just updated this too. If you noticed previously we had a light bulb and we just wanted to make it a lot more easier. If I click on more, it'll have pre-designed prompts that I can use. So here's a bunch of them, and I can get in like really specific, to where objection handling, sales pitch, it'll almost create like a script for you on what you could say. But let's say that I know in this scenario that this client, Lisa, is very fee sensitive and really concerned about fees. One of her neighbors told her that annuities are really expensive, and that's all she's heard. So let's say that I'm going to put objection handling fees are too high. That'll basically pull this up. It'll pull in the injection. And now what the AI is going to do is it's going to basically help me do an analysis on one, how would I counter the fees are too high? What are the fees in general? But not only that, it basically is going to give me a comparison with other potential products that she potentially would be putting her money in and what the fees would be associated with other products so that I can do like an apples to apples comparison if I need to. And so it's going to basically go through the breakdown of what the fees look like in this actual product. And in this case, you can see the rider fee, and it's going to basically show all those fees. And then it's basically going to show kind of the guarantees, the value I'm getting out of it, a annual fee, 10-year fee breakdown with each product. But then it's going to go through, why am I paying this fee? What's the value that I'm getting out of it? Because typically, if there's value, the fees are kind of a second thought if they're actually benefiting and getting value out of it. So here's the value of it. And again, we don't have a ton of time, so I'm not going to go into a lot of detail on each one of these. I'll let you kind of go through this on your own. But basically, you can see the value points that really point out. And, with sales, if you can provide value, that's kind of the sweet spot. And that's how you close more deals, is basically not talking about, features and benefits and everything like that. You're talking about how does this actually value the client? Um, Here are some alternate are all realistic alternatives. So this is great because it's like, hey, you got to do something with that money, whether it's in a mutual fund or you have an advisor managing it or whatever else. There's always costs involved. So now you can put it in perspective of, okay, you know what, maybe you put it in a mutual fund or maybe you put it in something else. There's going to be fees with that as well. And here's kind of the pros and cons. Here's what you don't get in that product, for example, with it looks like they're looking at a non-guaranteed product. Um, Low cost index fund is great, very, very, very low cost, but there's no guaranteed income in this scenario, which what they're looking for, no deferral. And so here's kind of a fairly detailed background. So this is great because it allows you to, one, prep before your case as needed, but I know that there's agents and advisors that'll go through with this with their client, and so that they feel like they're getting, a thorough breakdown of everything. What I can do too, and so you can see it gave me basically 8 parts on how I can, overcome that objection with fees and a lot more. I can also download this. So let's say that I wanted to, just have this in my back pocket so I can prep. I can download this. This will download a PDF, and then I'm good to go. If I just, go back up here to the product recommendations, I can also put this into like an email form, which is great. And it'll allow me to do that too. We're kind of coming down to our time for the day, but just as a quick review, you can see we took basically a 1 or 2 sentence case with the name, state, amount, and the goal was income. And we basically created, what is this, probably 5 to 8 pages of case prep that we could go to. So now me as the advisor, I don't do annuities very often, but I have Lisa with this $350,000. I can feel super confident in being like, okay, we've done a pretty detailed analysis. I can, looks like we can choose 63,000 in this case, guaranteed, da 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 da, build up all the other, pros with it. But it allows me to do my homework really easily in one spot. And this took us 5 minutes maybe. And so now I can, basically take 5 minutes, be super detailed, and not have to be relying on somebody else and they're biased or having to wait for them. If they have a question, if I have a question, I have to wait for them or go to the site. I can work a lot more efficiently. And that goes back to where we started with sales enablement on how do you utilize technology, in this case, Annuities Genius, to make you better at your job and sell more effectively and efficiently. And this isn't just helping you save time, but it's helping you sell better, and be better for your clients and getting them, good products that fit their scenario the best, being a problem solver. So I hope that was helpful for everyone. I appreciate everybody hopping on. We do these every Wednesday at 11 a.m. Pacific. And so hop on as often as you'd like. And again, they're all saved on YouTube as well if you wanted to review it. I appreciate everybody hopping on, and have a great afternoon.